What's up, Porch Nation? Welcome back to Porch Nation headquarters here in Worcester, Massachusetts, a subsidiary of the Scheinhardt Wig Company. Happy Hanukkah, everyone. I hope everyone's Festival of Lights has started out wonderfully. It's also playoff time here in the Greatest League, those 3 weeks to glory we've all been waiting for. Well, wait no more, it's wildcard week. Only 4 games this time, so let's not waste another second blabbing, and let's get into it! Well, it's finally here, what we've all been playing for, the playoffs. We had highly anticipated matchups in the championship bracket and a razor-thin margin of victory in the consolation. Actually, it was the third smallest postseason margin of victory ever in either bracket. So let's take a moment to look at our playoff games that came down to a decimal. Let's start just under a half a point and go lower. We have to get in our Wayback Machine all the way back to 2011 to find Steve beating Ross by 0.49 points in the 11th place consolation bracket game. This one featured a notable TJ Yates providing 2.21 points for Steve against Tim Tebow's 14.67 despite 3 picks for Ross. In 2013, we saw Skinner versus Joe in the 9th place consolation game. That game came down to 0.47 points and featured Eddie Lacy on one side and Tony Gonzalez on the other. Oh, 2013. Next, in descending order, also came in 2013 on the championship bracket side. Josh Marshall beat Ross in the second round by a margin of 0.43. This game featured a standout performance from Fred Jackson on one side and Jamal Charles on the other. Now that brings us up to this postseason. This week, Andy beat Greg in the consolation bracket by just 0.3 points. As I said, this is the third smallest margin of playoff victory in our 14 seasons. Andy adds another to the 4 wins in a row he ended the season with and continues the quest towards the 7th place game. Greg is set to face Ross for 11th place this coming week after this loss. Also, this historic moment easily earns an unofficial Game of the Week nod despite being a consolation game. Still on down the list of decimal games, all the way back in 2010, Joe beat former manager Eric by 0.24 for 3rd place in the championship bracket. This game featured a timeless head-to-head of Mike Vick versus Joe Flacco, and they combined for 4.07 points. Now that's a dogfight by some elite quarterbacks. And finally, our closest playoff and second closest overall ever margin of victory came in 2016. Skinner beat former manager Mike by a shocking 0.03 in the first round of the consolation bracket. This tilt featured Eli Manning, surprisingly, on the losing side, and a stellar outing from Devonta Freeman on the other. Alright, enough of memory lane, let's get back to the week at hand. Our other consolation bracket game this week featured Adam and Ross. Adam takes this one by 30, and as I mentioned, it sends Ross to a head-to-head with Greg for 11th place. Now on to the big show, the championship bracket. Neither of these games were close, and both were repeats of games earlier this season. Let's start with Joe versus me. Joe came into this one looking for redemption as I beat him in Week 9. Although this one was closer, I still managed to win by nearly 17. I advance, and Joe will head on to the 5th place game. Our other matchup was the Josh Bowl Part 2. Since our Joshes are not in the same division, it's very rare they'd face off more than once in a season. In fact, the only other time they faced off in the championship bracket happened all the way back in 2011 for our 5th place game. Josh Steinberg had a stellar second half this season, but will now face off against Joe for 5th place. Well, the wild card round is in the books, and we've come out on the other side with no wild card teams left still at the dance. We're all out of bye weeks, so we'll see if our 1st or 2nd place teams have any rust or if they're rearing to go. In addition to fruitful fantasy football play, I hope you all have a great holiday weekend upcoming, whether it's a Festivus pole or a Yule log or a menorah you celebrate with. We've got just 2 weeks of games left to crown a champion, and things are liable to get wild. I can't wait to see how this finishes, so until next week, keep thriving, Porch Nation!
Bloop.